Thanks for joining me on another edition of the Wealth Nation podcast. I'm Yolanda, I'm a wealth advisor, and on this platform, I give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage money well, to live abundantly, and build generational wealth. I'm the founder of the Wealth Nation podcast. I'm the founder of Financially Fabulous Females. I'm the director of Solomon Wealth Management. So I'm totally committed to getting and helping you get things right with money. So plenty happening this last couple of weeks. I think the grey listing from the Financial Action Task Force really overshadowed the budget speech. In fact, this episode was supposed to be released last week, but we kind of inserted the whole grey listing thing in between. But today I want to touch on that, on what's happening with the budget speech. I mean, it was a fairly safe budget, but today I want to share with you some of those changes that happened. And more specifically, I want to talk about how this will impact you guys in terms of your money and finance. So that 2023 budget speech was delivered against the backdrop of high living costs. Horrible unemployment, and figures were released this week that employment was like 0.2% better than last quarter. And also the load shedding is unreal. It's unreal. We are talking about stage 7, stage 8 being implemented. There's also talks about stage 12, and that's the reality that we're living in. And this all has placed a strain on South Africa's economy and the growth. So the finance minister, Enoch Godongwana, provided some relief by proposing no significant tax increases to the major revenue-generating categories, such as your personal income tax. So the personal income tax was just raised slightly to an adjustment for inflation, and no increase in value-added tax. I was expecting to see an increase in value-added tax, and one of the reasons for that was the commodity cycle. Last year's collection, we almost 100 billion in surplus of that collection, and what we're seeing right now is commodities on a downward swing. In fact, I was just checking my share prices before jumping on and recording this episode, and a lot of my resource shares, people like Exxaro, their shares are down. And that's the nature of commodities, right? I mean, it's a very cyclic. And as we head into a lower commodity cycle, we're going to see things really, really toughen up for us as South Africans. From the minister's speech, this basically signals continuity from the 2022 budget last year. It echoed government's commitment to economic growth while acknowledging the adverse impact of tax increase. You know, I think the government is a bit on the schizo side. No offense to those suffering with that condition, but they talk a good game, but in practice, it's a completely different ball game altogether. We saw the former CEO of Eskom, Andre de Ruyter. He came up with a whole bunch of allegations. I mean, he just fell short of naming people. He probably knows who those names are. But that's where we are, and they have such a blasé attitude towards it, and they're more concerned about the allegations. And from the Zondo Commission, things like that, we know these are real things that are happening. And what Andre did was just confirm it from the inside. And the uproar was over the allegations, not the actual corruption and capture that's actually happening. So with this budget, plenty of tax proposals were designed to support businesses and individuals to cope with the higher cost of living. Tax relief of around 13 billion, which was proposed to promote investments into green energy and support businesses and individuals. I think the most disappointing thing for me was 60% of government expenditure is going towards welfare. And now, I don't want to see our people suffer. But what if just a fraction of that went into helping small business and micro businesses, giving people an opportunity to earn a living for themselves? So the existing social grants have been increased to cushion the rising effects of inflation. And if you watch a video that I put out last year, I think towards last quarter of last year, I explained how the welfare increases when money is exchanged, but the value is not exchanged. It actually drives up inflation. Okay, and that's what we're going to see happen as these As the wage continues, if there's no clear exchange in value, that's going to drive up inflation, and it's going to be horrible for those of us that are exchanging value. Government spending is facing an uphill battle, specifically with the public sector wages. The employees want more, government can't afford more, and so nothing is basically settled on that. So some of the highlights or some of the takeaways from that speech was that the personal income tax brackets have been adjusted at 4.9% for the impact of inflation. So what this means is if your annual increase for the coming financial year was less than 4.9%, you're actually going to be paying more taxes, because it's not just money leaving your account. It's the buying power of your money, and inflation, which is sitting at around 7.2% as we speak, is eating away at the buying power, and that 4.9% increase in the tax brackets is also taking a little bit more out of your pocket as well, if you didn't have that 4.9% increase. Obviously, if you're sitting with a 10% increase, you're actually making more money than you did last year. There was an upward adjustment of 10% that has been made to the tax brackets for retirement lump sum. So this is great. I mean, this hasn't been done in a long time. And they should look at it every 2 to 3 years, because inflation has been crazy. So previously, if you were close to retirement age, you had the option of withdrawing 500,000 Rand tax-free from your typical retirement and pension funds. So that has now increased to 550,000 Rands. So if you're on that verge of retirement or know somebody on that verge of retirement, that's an extra 50 in their pocket without paying any taxes. The other highlight was individuals who install rooftop solar panels will be entitled to a tax rebate of 25% of the cost of the panels, up to a maximum of 15,000 Rand. And I mean, who really just goes and buys panels, right? You need the whole inverter, the system, the installation. And that's the thing they're not giving the tax breaks on, which is kind of pain in the best end there. And just 15,000 Rand, I mean, you got to be ready to invest at least 150, 200,000 Rand to get a basic system to run a home, a freestanding home. This incentive is only going to be available for 1 year, and it does not include the inverters or the batteries. So it's solely on the panels. No changes have been made to the fuel levy or the road accident fund levy. So that is an attempt to curb the price of fuel. However, we find that we had a massive price increase for March. And coming back to the conversation we had on the commodity cycles, we'll also see oil price drop a little bit. It was floating at around $80 a barrel this week. And hopefully we can get relief on that side. Excise duties on alcohol and tobacco increased by 4.9%. I mean, those increases should be in the double digits. And hopefully we can see that in the coming years. The diesel fuel levy refund will be extended to food manufacturers for a period of 2 years, from the 1st of April 2023 to the 23rd of March 2025, to limit the impact on power cuts and on food prices as well. The tax-free thresholds for personal income tax have also been adjusted for inflation. I think for the last financial year, it was at around 92,000 some change. For the coming year, it's going to be 95,750 for taxpayers younger than 65, 184,217 Rands for taxpayers aged 65 to 74, and 165,689 Rand for taxpayers 75 and over. And I personally think that it's a horrid thing for anybody over 65 to be paying taxes. If I ever become president or finance minister, that's the first thing I'd be changing, is over 65 should not be paying taxes. Rebates also have been increased. So the rebate that you would get back is now 17,235 for individuals, 9,444 for individuals 65 and over, and 3,145 for individuals 75 and over. So if you're over 75, you get to enjoy all three of the primary, secondary, and tertiary tax rebates. Medical tax credits have been increased as well, in line with inflation. Also, as a business owner, something to look forward to, although it's just a measly 1%, the corporate tax rate will be decreasing from 28% to 27%, effective from the 31st of March 2023. Interest exemptions have remained unchanged, which is really disappointing considering how high the interest rates. And typically, you'll find pensioners in this space. Pensioners will hold a lot of their money in interest-bearing investments, mainly because they're looking for income, and it's usually risk-free investments, and they do not have this option of having some kind of inflationary buffer for that interest exemption. So that remains at 28,300 for the coming year. So any interest you earn over that, and if you're under 65, that's your limit. And if you're over 65, your interest exemption is 34,500 Rand. I would have loved to see this increase, especially for the over 65s. At least your first 100,000 in interest should be free. But then again, like I said, I'm not a finance minister. Dividends tax has remained unchanged. It's sitting at 20%. So how this impacts you is if you're holding unit trust, for example, and if those unit trusts receives dividends, the asset manager will pay the 20% dividend withholding tax on your behalf to SARS, and that remains unchanged at 20%. Tax-free savings account unchanged. I think last year they bumped it up from 33 to 36. This year it's still 33 to 36, but it's been almost, 8 years now since that 500,000 cap has been there. I would have loved to see that increase to at least 750,000. So that would give people more opportunity to cap that out. I mean, nobody would have capped that out since it started in 2015 because of that 36,000 cap. It started off at 33,000 Rand a year. But I would have loved to see that increase to give us more leeway to try and grow wealth, to be shielded from taxes, particularly the retirees. All right, so when it comes to that retirement lump sum, again, first 550 tax-free, and everything else is taxed on a sliding scale from 18 to 36%. So anything, anything over 1,155,001 rands will be taxed at 143,550 plus 36% of everything above 1,155,000. Okay, so that's basically the highlights package. The nitty-gritties of it, we're not really going to touch. It's just the major things that affect majority of folks in terms of personal income taxes and retirement. That's what we covered in today's edition of the Wealth Nation podcast. If you need help on how you can get the most out of these tax breaks, how to maximize this, if you need financial strategies, financial structure over your current portfolio, and you're looking to bounce off ideas, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help you out. You can go to my website. It's www.solomonwealth.co.za. Click the Get Started button, and we can chat one-on-one and see how we can be of assistance.